Good Saturday morning, everyone. Look what I got in the mail yesterday. I've got my Scottish Rite 2021 planner. So the good news is, at least the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry believes that there is going to be a 2021. And they're confident enough to let us start making plans. So, isn't that good news? Okay, today we're starting a very important chapter or section of the book of Understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot, in which we start discussing the nature of the small cards. This is chapter 19, if you're following along, page 205. So we've come 205 pages so far in our morning readings. So, chapter 19, the small cards, and it begins with a quote from Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford, a brilliant man. He says, "Hang on, it's easier than you think." Now we turn our attention to the 36 small cards. Now remember, there's 36 small cards. They're the small cards of the four suits. But the aces don't count as small cards. The small cards live inside their aces. So aces are aces. So there's 36 small cards, the 2s through 10s of each of the four suits. We now turn our attention to the 36 small cards. In the ancient decks, these cards were called pips, and were seldom more complex than simple geometric arrangement of wands, cups, swords, and discs. Sometimes the numbers of the cards were painted on one or more of the corners, much like our modern playing cards. This changed dramatically with the introduction of secret images taught to initiates of the Golden Dawn, and the published deck suggested by Arthur Edward Waite and executed by Pamela Coleman Smith. Suddenly, the small cards had images that evoked feelings and emotions in the same way that the trumps did. There's a big difference between the Golden Dawn images and those of the Waite-Smith deck. Waite, an influential member of the Golden Dawn, felt bound by his oaths of secrecy to the order never to reveal the correct and esoteric images and meanings of the tarot. The deck that he and Smith produced was created as a vehicle to introduce the mysteries, not to reveal them. They certainly succeeded. It is difficult to develop a complex or overtly esoteric dogma around the deck, and for this I must admit that Waite did a good job in not violating his vows. What I'm not sure that he foresaw was the fact that over the years, the deck would become so wildly popular that its images would engender a perfectly viable self-referential divinatory device of its own. In other words, the Waite-Smith deck may not be the perfect Kabbalistic tarot, but it's the perfect whatever it is. Under the heading, Recipe for Small Cards. The small cards of the Thoth Tarot take the Golden Dawn model as their basic standard, and when considering them, we are immediately confronted with the question of their titles and their meanings. Why is the Two of Cups called love and the 7 of Cups called debauch? Why is the 10 of Wands oppression and the 10 of Discs wealth? Why are so many of the swords just horrible cards? The answer is a simple formula containing 2 Kabbalistic and 2 astrological factors. The formula is N of S plus P of ZS equals SC, which is shorthand for the number of the suit plus the planet in a zodiac sign equals the small card. In Chapter 9, we learned the basics concerning the 10 Sephiroth, Yod-He Vav-He, and the 4 Kabbalistic worlds. Now let's look at the astrological factors. Let's start with the signs of the zodiac and their divisions by quadruplicities and triplicities. The quadruplicities of the zodiac. The 12 signs of the zodiac are categorized according to element into quadruplicities, or 4 groups of 3 cards. And it refers to table 9 here. I won't be able to show you the tables this morning, except to hold them up. The 4 tarot suits are assigned to each as follows. Wands are the fire signs, which are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Cups are the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Swords are the air signs, Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini. Discs are the earth signs, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. So that's the quadruplicities. They're categorized according to element. Now the triplicities, or the triplicities of the zodiac. The 12 signs of the zodiac are categorized according to modes into triplicities, or 3 groups of 4 signs. See Table 10. The 9 small cards of each suit are assigned in groups of 3 as follows. The 2s and the 3s and the 4s together represent the cardinal signs of the zodiac, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. The 5s, 6s, and 7s are attributed to the fixed signs, and the fixed signs are Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus. And the 8s and the 9s and the 10s of each suit are attributed to the mutable signs of Sagittarius, Pisces, Gemini, and Virgo. Okay. Now this is where I really, really hope you have this book. Because here's table 8 and 9, or 9 and 10, that shows the triplicities and the quadruplicities, just as I've described. So when we put the zodiac signs in order, we see that the small cards are ordered in 4 repeating patterns, 2 through 10. Each small card represents 1 decan, or period of 10 degrees of the zodiac, and approximately 10 degrees of the year. And see table 12. Okay, and these tables are like that. Okay, there's no way I'm going to be able to show that to you just by holding it up. But I did post a wheel, a color wheel, that showed how the small cards are laid out in repeating patterns 2 through 10, starting with 0 degrees Aries, in a wheel chart that I posted on my Facebook page this morning. So you can get the general idea from that. Okay. Now let's turn our attention to the factor indicated by the planets. Starting at 0 degree Leo, which is the traditional Chaldean start of the year, astrological start of the year. Starting at 0 degree Leo, planets are assigned in the following repeating order: Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sol, Venus, Mercury, Luna. That is the descending position of the planetary spheres on the tree of life. Saturn is number 3, way at the top in the supernal triad. Then number 4 is Jupiter, number 5 is Mars, number 6 is Sol, number 7 is Venus, number 8 is Mercury, and number 9 is the Moon. So the planets are assigned to the decans, or to the small cards, in a repeating order of Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sol, Venus, Mercury, and Luna. And I believe if you look at that chart that I posted this morning, you'd see that pattern forming. This is the descending order of the planetary spheres on the tree of life. See Table 13. Astrologically speaking, an interesting and symbiotic relationship exists between the signs of the zodiac and the planets. First, each planet rules or bestows its particular nature and character on one or more signs of the zodiac. For example, warlike and fiery Mars rules aggressive Aries and passionate Scorpio. Secondly, there are certain signs of the zodiac that exalt a specific planet, almost as if it were honored, an honored guest upon whom much attention and preference is bestowed. For example, Aries the ram of spring exalts the sun and welcomes its return in the winter's darkness, or from winter's darkness. Because of the way the planets are allotted to the signs of the zodiac throughout the 36 small cards, we're bound to have some planets happy in their zodiacal homes, and some zodiacal homes happy to host their planets. Conversely, some planets are decidedly unhappy in their zodiacal homes, and some zodiacal homes are equally unhappy to host their planet. This astrological harmony or disharmony is a major factor in determining the characteristic meanings of a small card. It's great fun to peruse a good astrology book and match the aspects of the individual small cards with the descriptions of character of people who have the same aspects in their natal chart. A perfect example is the 7 of Cups, which in the Thoth Tarot is called debauch. It is Venus in Scorpio. Venus is not well dignified in Scorpio. Astrologer Joan Quigley wrote of this aspect, "Common types with Venus in Scorpio dissipate relentlessly and are frequently degenerates or drunks. Most of you overdo when it comes to sex." Unquote. What a perfect description of the tarot card whose traditional title is Lord of Illusionary Success, and that Crowley simply calls debauch. Okay, under the section Good News and Bad News. Now we can couple the astrological factors with everything we've learned about the tree of life and the four Kabbalistic worlds, and begin working out the nature of each small card. Unfortunately, while the formula is very simple, the interpretation is rather complex. As a matter of fact, it's very much like one of those jokes that starts out, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. Take the Seven of Discs, failure, as an example. The good news is we have Saturn in Taurus, and Saturn is very happy in Taurus. It's one of the most stable matchups of sign and planet imaginable. But the bad news is that Saturn and Taurus find themselves in the seventh Sephirah, or Netzach, and Netzach holds a horribly unbalanced position on the tree of life. On the other hand, the good news is that Netzach is the sphere of Venus, and Venus rules Taurus. The bad news is that all of this is in Asaya, the lowest of the Kabbalistic worlds, an environment so earthy that poor Venus is totally dethroned from her accustomed place in heaven. Add to the fact that this is all happening so low on the tree of life that the bad news is amplified to such a disastrous level that the good news is just not good enough to make any difference. And so we have failure. Or how about the Nine of Swords? Cruelty. The good news is that we find ourselves on the very stable ninth Sephirah Yesod. The bad news is that swords rule the mind and reason, and Yesod is so low on the tree of life that all that good intellect has degenerated into heartless passion. On the other hand, the good news is that we have a very active Mars in a very active Gemini. But the bad news is that Mars and Gemini do not agree about how to be active. Mars is focused and directed. He attacks with a forward thrust of a warrior. Gemini, on the other hand, is scattered and operates best while flitting around. This is very frustrating to Mars, who now becomes totally unrestrained by intellect and reason, becomes downright mean. Voila! Cruelty. In this chapter, I will talk briefly about each of the 36 small cards. As before, I'll not hesitate to quote liberally from the Book of Thoth. But as much as I respect Crowley's genius and my own twisted insights, I want to encourage you to use the formula of N of S plus P of NZ equals SC to work out your own new and more innovative meanings for the small cards themselves. The more you learn about the Kabbalah and astrology, the deeper your understanding of these cards will become. Go ahead. It's easier than you think. And that's where we'll stop today. Tomorrow we will pick up with looking at the individual small cards and beginning with the Two of Wands. So I hope you're having a good Saturday morning and are ready to have a good weekend. We in California will be quarantined. Well, we'll be curfewed tonight. So not much will be different at the DuQuette house this evening. So everybody continue to take good care of yourself. Be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.